A worst case scenario UFC 306. Hidden in the boxes around me, I have the worst possible case scenarios for this weekend's Noche UFC card. We're going to jump right into it to box number one. I think this would be maybe the worst of the worst. If this Noche UFC event is way too theatrical. Now, we already have a hunch that it's going to be more theatrical than any previous UFC event. Dana White has said there's going to be a movie playing throughout, which is like connected to each fight, and in between all of the matchups there's going to be this film that talks about the history of Mexican fighting and showcases it. My worry is, okay, this film takes place. Is there not going to be as much of the pre-fight banter between the commentary team or the analysts at the desk, or potentially even less promos for each one of the fighters? I kind of find that hard to believe. So maybe they eliminate any bit of filler time that occasionally the UFC events have, but they're a little bit better with it on most of the pay-per-views, and they put this Noche UFC movie in the place of that filler. Or are they still going to keep the usual commentary team discussing and then the analyst desk dropping predictions, which could make this a very long night? There is only 10 fights on this Noche UFC card, and I would prefer if they treated this event as a 10-fight card, not trying to make it as long as a 14-fight UFC pay-per-view. I would 100% prefer this card ends earlier than a normal pay-per-view, but we still have good pacing and we get to watch the fights, which the UFC delivers better than any other fight league. I mean, if you look at PFL and Bellator, I always talk down on them because there is a ton of wasted time between fights that just makes watching it a lot harder. Like, you want to get up and do something else in the middle. And if I'm live streaming for it, I can't get up and do anything else. I'm locked in, sitting here as there's BS banter and filler time completely ruining the show. And I don't want that with the UFC card. The reason these boxing events become so damn boring is not because some of the fights end up going distance and you'll get occasional knockouts here and there. It's because the in-between time takes so long. There's way too much pre-fight bullshit that happens. And if Noche UFC is too damn theatrical, we might be seeing a UFC event for the first time ever that goes in a similar direction to what some of these overplayed boxing events are like. I mean, if you hear Dana White always talking about, no, we don't do these special walkouts. He's not a fan of them. We don't bring rappers out as they walk to the damn cage because it's maybe too much time, too much energy, takes away from the simplicity of the UFC's product, which has made it so beautiful. But Noche UFC is essentially going against what the UFC is built upon. We get to the fights. Little pre-fight, some montages, some promo, get to know each fighter a tad, but it's about the fight. This here is going to be about the documentary. And the fact that Dana White also said he believes that this Noche UFC show that they have could be a movie that's consistently ran during the rest of 2024 at the Sphere, it gets me a little bit worried. It really does. I don't know for sure if it's going to be too much movie time, right? Like, what if the movie adds an extra 2 hours to the pay-per-view time, which normally, right, wouldn't happen. But granted so, but there'd normally be 13 fights on a card or 14 fights on a pay-per-view. Fair point. But I'd be watching the fights, not filler airtime with the damn film that's just constantly running. So I'm very worried about an overly theatrical Noche UFC kind of dwindling down the hype of the fights / causing frustration for fans. And on top of it, just not being what the UFC is built on. Now, I will pray that I'm wrong, and that's why I have this as the first worst possible case scenario for this card. I do think this would be the worst of everything. Like, yeah, the losses of certain fighters would suck, But if the card ends up sucking because there is just too much delay time and leaving us kind of frustrated just sitting watching overblown documentaries, like I know Dana White's so excited because he's got all these high-level camera people and high-level production teams and whatnot. And I hope that it delivers. But there's a world where it doesn't. And it definitely leaves fans a little bit annoyed at an underwhelming Noche UFC, or maybe an overwhelming Noche UFC would be better put, because it's just going to be too much bullshit, which is not what the fans are here for. But again, I hope I'm wrong on this one, and I'm hoping that it's pretty badass and they have the cool backgrounds during each one of the fights. And I hope that the documentaries or, the movies that they're playing, I hope that it's put together well where it's not too long. It's a good bit of pre-fight time, but not something that completely overshadows the event taking place, just trying to be too documentary focused. So that is my thought on the Noche UFC being too theatrical, and I definitely think it is a worst possible case scenario, and it's worst possible case scenario number one. Now let's get into some fight outcomes that would be worst case scenarios. Diego Lopes getting submitted. I will cry. I will break down. I will have an emotional outburst. This will be rough because Diego Lopes is an emerging star in the featherweight division. And on the contrary, Brian Ortega has already said that moving forward, he's going to be fighting in the lightweight division. And I don't know if you guys saw Brian Ortega's physique during this fight week. A picture was released. It's all over Twitter. I'm sure you saw it. Brian Ortega looks relatively soft in the midsection. Now, he's never been known for having a menacing physique or anything like that. But last time these two were scheduled, Ortega looked a bit soft, and then he wanted this fight at 155, and it ended up getting canceled altogether, which is what led to Dan Ige stepping in on short notice and fighting Diego Lopes in his most recent fight. Could a similar scenario play out? Man, I hope not. I would say worst case scenario beyond Diego Lopes getting subbed, I guess this is going to be an honorable mention, would be Brian Ortega somehow, getting taken out of the fight. But that's like too easy, That's a stupid one. And then what, is Danny going to take it again? He's in Vegas. We'll do the rematch. 6 hours notice. Bring him again. I don't think so as I pop out this in. A real worst case scenario, though, is a checked out Brian Ortega finds a vulnerable position on Diego Lopes and submits him, especially with as good as Diego Lopes's grappling is proposed. And I mean, granted, he showcased it too. I'm picking Diego Lopes. His punching power is real. His striking prowess is better than Brian Ortega's. He's got better offense. Ortega's got a great chin, but I doubt that Diego Lopes is any bit chinny. The dude can definitely eat shots too. And on the ground, Diego Lopes is an incredibly profound grappler. Like, I think he's pretty elite with the submission threat, with the positional knowledge. I mean, he's a jiu-jitsu coach, for fuck's sake. I know Brian Ortega has a slick grappling style, and even in the open workout, he's doing some like ninja jiu-jitsu type moves that have people overly hyping his jiu-jitsu, but the simple stuff is what wins fights. The flashy shit isn't. It's really cool to know all these flashy jump triangles, flying arm bars, whatever the fuck. But overall, basics are what gets the win in MMA fights. And I think Diego Lopes has flashy subs too, but he's definitely good with his basics. And he's also got the physicality advantage over Ortega. So I see him ending up on top. The worry of him getting submitted would be a Diego Lopes that overly exerts himself in an attempt to finish a veteran and a, OG like Brian Ortega, and then he gasses out. And then round 3 comes, he's exhausted. Brian Ortega finds an arm triangle or finds a rear naked choke or what have you. Finds some type of submission off of a tired Diego Lopes, and then he's moving up to 155 pounds, which hurts the stock of Diego Lopes and hurts the division, because with a win, Diego Lopes is 1,000% in the mix for a title fight, especially with Ilia Topuria already mentioning that he has interest in fighting Diego Lopes. And I think that would be a pretty badass battle of the new blood and the new faces of the UFC featherweight division. So let's hope the MMA gods are in our favor, and let's hope that Diego Lopes puts pressure on Ortega, but it's patient pressure. And he's calculated, because finishing Ortega seems unlikely. the official pick, I'm going Diego Lopes by decision. And I think that he's going to shine enough so and fight smart enough, show his IQ out there, and look better than he did against Dan Ige, too. Because that Dan Ige scenario was all fucked up. That was a worst case scenario for Diego Lopes stepping into that fight, and he still managed to get a good win. And I think he's beaten Brian Ortega. So Diego Lopes getting subbed will be a worst case scenario. Now, next one. Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko, another controversial decision. If this fight ends with any form of controversy, and we have to see the damn fourth fight, oh my gosh, the division has already been held up for too long. I want to see Manon Fiorot fight for a belt. She deserves it, and I actually think she's a nightmare matchup for either one of the co-main event winners, right? Either one of the ladies, Grasso or Schevchenko, struggles with Manon Fiorot. But if this fight ends with controversy, we're in a fuck spot. Now, I do think the UFC would be like, all right, enough's enough. It's a controversial decision. So what? Manon Fiorot, you're getting your damn title fight. But I would just prefer to have a final answer on who is truly better between these two. Now, if you've watched me throughout the week, if you know my predictions, I believe Alexa Grasso is at the best point of her fighting career, and I can't say the same about Valentina Shevchenko. I think Shevchenko is going to be the worst version of herself since she's emerged as a UFC champion. I think the high possibility is Grasso to beat her, potentially even finish her. Valentina is going to be slower on the feet. I think Grasso's hands are going to be on fire. But yeah, I hope it's not another controversial decision. I just want a rightful winner. Now, the confusing thing would be if Valentina wins, gets the belt back somehow at damn 36, beats Grasso, they're 1-1-1 against each other. But I know for a fact that the UFC would move on to the Manon Fiorot fight. So I think regardless of a controversial decision, most likely the division will set forth. There's one worst case scenario of the controversial decision result, and it would be the decision is a no contest. If somehow there's some abysmal eye poke or some unfortunate foul that ends this fight at a point that we can't even get a winner. Holy shit. Like if this fight ends in another draw too. No contest and draw are the two worst possible case scenarios. I know I put controversial decision, but really this fight ending with an inconclusive result is worse than controversial. Fuck it. Give a robbery win. At least it's a W on paper, and for fuck's sake, we're moving on. But if it's another draw or if it's somehow a no contest and the division is again stuck, holy hell, you're killing the flyweight division. We need something absolute because there needs to be a move on after this fight. We got to get to the next thing, which is Manon Fiorot. I think most fans, and you guys can let me know in the comments, think that Manon Fiorot is probably the best women's flyweight in the world right now. And damn, I want to see her fight the winner. So hopefully we get a fair winner. Hopefully we don't have any weird controversial decision. But at the end of the day, just seeing a W on one of their records is going to be a good case scenario. But I am predicting Grasso wins. You got to go with the primed Grasso over Valentina. But yeah, hopefully no controversy. And conclusive result, a final answer to who's better. And I think it's going to be Alexa Grasso, who is the better one between the two. Let's keep running. We're going to jump to what is the main event. Merab wrestle fucks O'Malley. I might as well just fucking turn the stream off and walk the fuck out if Merab 50-45s O'Malley via wrestling all night long. Because yes, Sean O'Malley is my lock. Sean O'Malley is a star on the come up right now. And I think with a win, he's in a great position. I also think he's just better for the weight class. I don't care what anybody says. Slick and elusive strikers like Sean O'Malley will 1,000% sell better than a Merab. I know Merab is doing skits, and I know Merab has his cult fan base, right? He's built a following on Instagram, Twitter, etc. But overall, better for the division and better for the business is O'Malley winning. But better for the fans too is the Sugar Show putting on a performance of a lifetime. If Merab is successful in chain wrestling and we watch it for 5 rounds, not only will the fans be upset watching it after a long Noche event, they're going to be disappointed with a bit of a snoozer. But damn, the weight class is going to be sad. I'm going to be heartbroken. I think Sean O'Malley's hands are going to be on fire though. Don't worry too much. This is a worst case scenario, but it's also an extremely unlikely case scenario too. I think that Sean O'Malley is going to manage distance incredibly well. I think Sean O'Malley's grappling skill set is completely underrated. People shit on it, but it's not like he's some can on the ground. And they'll bring up evidence, oh, but Petr Yan had some success getting him down. He didn't keep him down though. And Petr Yan has elite striking, something Merab doesn't have. So sure, you can say, oh, but look how Merab did against Petr Yan, wrestle fucking him and pressure him backwards. Styles make the fights. O'Malley has a massive length advantage over Merab, which is going to make his striking from range that much more effective. Whereas Petr Yan is 5'3". He's one of the shortest fighters in the damn UFC bantamweight division. He's really flyweight sized. I mean, he's got a little thickness to his frame, but he could probably starve himself and get down to 25 if he really had to. Regardless of all that, completely different fight. It's not about the MMA math. O'Malley's hands are incredibly good. O'Malley's wrestling defense is incredibly good. But on top of him having proficient grappling and wrestling defensive capabilities, he's also just extremely good on his feet. The footwork is next level, that he's so damn hard to get a hold of. I think it is unlikely that Merab cements any significant amount of control time. I could see Merab timing a takedown or two here, O'Malley bursting back up to the feet, or potentially Merab clinching O'Malley a bit against the cage. But he's going to have to do it for 5 rounds. And throughout this entire 5-round fight, there is a legitimate knockout punching threat. There's also the threat of the knees up the center with Sean O'Malley. I think that his timing is just simply too good. He's too precise of a striker. I don't think Merab is going to be able to hold him down all night. They're going to be striking at some point, and I think it's going to be a lot of this fight in the stand-up. And Merab has been buckled by significantly less level striking. Like, Marlon Moraes was well beyond washed at the time that he nearly knocked out Merab, right? Look at another one. Henry Cejudo catching and buckling Merab. We got Sean O'Malley, who's more precise than any of them. I think has more power than any of them too. And I think he's going to find the kill shots. I don't think that Merab Dvalishvili is going to be able to sit in there with Sean O'Malley for 5. I think this fight's ended inside of the distance, and I think O'Malley's finding the chin. I feel like Sugar Show has the perfect anti-wrestling style, and that's why I feel so good about him pulling through. I think his hands are going to be on fire. He's going to land the kill shot, and I think out goes Merab 1, 2, or 3. It's going to be clean. It's going to be sick, and I think the fans are going to be happy. Noche UFC is going to be capped off with a massive W for the UFC if Sean O'Malley takes it home, because a wrestle fucking by Merab is a worst case scenario for you and I as fans, but it's also a worst case scenario for the business side, because there's just too much damn selling power with Sean O'Malley that they're praying he consistently performs and they can consistently build him bigger and bigger. And there's super fights on the horizon too if Sugar Show wins, because Merab, Georgian fighter, Topuria, the featherweight champ, up 1 weight class, Georgian fighter too. And I'm sure if he gets through Holloway and you see O'Malley knock out Merab, he'll want to get some revenge for his Georgian brother. So very interesting storyline on the horizon too. That's the worst case scenario for the main event. But of course, I don't finish it with the main event. A special worst case scenario would take place in the first fight of the night. If Raul Rosas Jr. gets knocked out, horrible. I will be very upset. Rosas is 19, young savage in the UFC. He got signed at 17. He's a Mexican fighter. He's Mexican-American, and he's taken on Richie Long, who is a one-dimensional kickboxer who has okay punching power, but he's not super quick. He's not super precise. And honestly, he's not very good. I mean, I was going to say dangerous. He's kind of dangerous. He's kind of dangerous with his power, but he's not that dangerous. Richie Long is not really knocking out UFC-level guys. I mean, shit, he lost to Jeff Molina early in his UFC run. I think Raul Rosas Jr. is going to be on point with the takedowns. The worry is maybe Rosas is like, fuck it, I can outstrike this guy, and somehow gets caught with something crazy. Because even though Richie Long doesn't have a ton of knockouts in the UFC, he's not Mr. Knockout King, he's a decision guy in the UFC, he does still have good punching power, and he can box for sure. And I'm not ready to say Rosas Jr. has hands. He's okay on the feet, he's competent, but on the ground is where he thrives and where he shines. So if he can be consistent with wrestling up a Richie Long, taking his back and subbing him, W's are coming home. And honestly, beyond the fan side of preferring to see the young Raul Rosas Jr. get a massive win at Noche UFC, it's also because everybody's parlay has got Rosas' name. And if they don't got the money line, they probably got inside distance or even submission. So if he loses, the bookies are taking home hella parlays. The parlays are all going down. They're crashing, bro. They're crashing quick. And I just simply hope that's not the case. So Raul Rosas Jr., losing in general will suck, but getting knocked out would be pretty horrible, especially against a Richie Long, who's not that good. He's really not that good. He's a decent mid-tier, lower mid-tier, journeyman type of damn bantamweight. And I think Rosas Jr. has a higher ceiling than that. And at 19, he's got some man strength on him. And the fact that he submitted Ricky Tercios gives me confidence that he can submit the side of Richie Long too, because Richie Long doesn't have that level of grappling. We've seen him taken down in multiple UFC fights before, and I think Rosas Jr. is strangling him. So a worst case scenario for sure. Guys, in the comments, you got to let me know. Do you agree with my worst case scenarios? I know there's some sickos out there who disagree with the Merab wrestle fucking O'Malley one. You guys are praying that you see Merab just lay on him for fucking 5 rounds. I know there's some of you out there, but I think everything else that I said is going to be universally accepted as truth, besides the one questionable right there for some of you. But Team O'Malley right here, and I know many of you guys are in the same spot. I did a poll yesterday during the live stream, and like 80-something% of the watchers are betting on Sean O'Malley. So a lot of money on the Sugar Show this weekend, and we're trying to cash, man. So let me know in the comments if I left anything out, or if you have some worst case scenarios that you think, could have been added. Maybe they didn't fit in the big 5, but you think they should have. Let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. You guys know it's a special edition series that I'm doing for the biggest and best UFC cards, every numbered card so far. But I'm not opposed to bringing this series to fight nights. It's just I need a super fight night to do it, not just a damn Vegas 97 type card. You get what I'm saying. Thanks for watching, everybody. Smash the like button on your way out. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Support this series. Drop a W in the comments. You have nothing to say. And definitely let me know what you think of it. It's a new series. There's only been, a handful of episodes for it. But I'm going to keep it coming because it seems to be well-liked. And I think this is the cult series on the come-up for me. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all. I see you in the next one. Peace out.